The disconnect is our foe. The disconnect is our ally. The hero, the villain, but it's never a lie. It's truth and balance. Chaotic, predictable, cruel, unforgiving. Our captor, our liberator, the beginning, the end. Our existence is the between.
The Disconnect, Part 1, The State of Affairs. Happiness in a sea of turmoil and tragedy. Guns of the state. Guns of the criminally minded. Guns of the passionate, the true loose cannons. Starvations and birthday cakes. Glamorous presents and the gifts of discarded beverage cans to those in need. Cures for external beauty. No hope for terminal diseases for the disaffected. Freedom for the privileged and the careless, thoughtless, stupid. Tickets, jail time, and court-ordered sanctions for the rest of us. The ones living in the illusion of the middle-class life. False promises, indoctrinated complacency, childhoods, the historical new concept, our lives mattering. The masters, the gatekeepers, our owners, our thieves, our murderers. Some serve them better than others. Membership benefits. Not beaten, not shot, not starved. Just behave and this could be you. Just obey. Just have money. And even better, be white, male, and wealthy. Take care of yourself. Don't be too generous. Breeding grounds for enabling the lazy. They want what you have. The takers, leeches, parasites. Those who oppose unity, fiscal growth, and progress. Free thought is the enemy, the defiance of God and the almighty dollar. Never be too far left or too far right. The center is safe. Domestication. The circle of the soft life. You are the product. Breeding workers, breeding soldiers, breeding the next generation of complicity, apathy, and the plastic beautiful. Treatment for the discontent of beauty is at the blade of a surgeon's knife, sucking out the excesses of poor food temperance. On-demand cash procedures. You're on your own to recover. I hope you make it. Live to tell. Path of sickness. The change of heart for the alert. One procedure is never enough. There is no such thing as too much beauty. There are too many things to own or have too much money. The enlightened rise, crushed, divided, unified in the beauty of upheaval. The heretics at peace and the crosshairs of a bully state. Fodder for the slaughter, humanity's great equalizer, except for the masters, the gatekeepers, and the corporate leaders. The cube. I stared at this cube, a glow with black light and oozed with venom. I picked it up and ingested it. I felt the venom go through every part of my body. My soul darkened, my eyes glassed and reflected the dimming light. New memories replaced the old, past events vanished into the void. That was the day of my release. I found freedom. Chastened, fleeting, and unstable, but very needed. No shame nor guilt, the power to numb and medicate. Join the dances of the disaffected. Yearn debauchery and its complications. People suffer yet I play. I dance possessed on their backs and devour the fruits of their labor. The crush that suffered still are. No changes, still dancing, tasting the ale, gloating, dick measuring of fleeting moments. Reconnections, their yearnings, their love of God, disappointed, the hollow truth. I am me am I, the extent of my heart and soul. Uncertain fleeting ground, guilt and shame died long ago, as did honest passion and empathy. I still have freedom, I always will. The cube is in me still. Disconnect, Part 2, Dimensions. I sit and look down. Not me, not now. No time soon. It's the hulking obvious that is in the room. The honest truth. Abilities. Abilities for newly found foresight and understanding. Responsibilities, the old and new. Crossroads. So many roads. Dead ends, hairpin turns leading to loss. Without GPS, we have maps. Without maps, we have the stars. Without the stars, we are none. We have no GPS on our journeys. We have maps. We have the stars. None are easy to read or understand. It's just not time yet. You'll never know the answer. The answer will be in code. Those after you and me may know. The drums are moving with sound onto the path. The mantra, call to arms, call to exist, to move forward towards the light at a pace that only will understand. Who dances with you? You never truly dance alone. The center, under the chandelier, or the distant walls, loves, foes, conflicts, battles to rise to arms, personal steadfast beliefs, dances of loss, dances of demise, the fallen, the equality lost, the victor. My road from the clearly seen highway, the turn-off road, engine trouble, didn't fill up when the tank was a quarter tank full. Broken down. Obligated. Foolish negotiations of the heart and creations in the land of scarcity. Desperation. Questionable actions. The maximum penalty. The path to this state of affairs. The cloud ride. The youthful understanding. Landed. Life of balance and peace, emotional desert, the sandstorms were unbearable at times. The exterior smiles on lands abroad, knowledge, the path of certainty, and the lives affected. The old port dies hard, and limping into its safety was the only option. Conditions that apply. The mending from the battles and storms. The cries of the affected faded till silent. State violence. Separation. Sails set for the new journey. The winds of destruction well behind in the distance. You never truly die. You only go on to the next life. There are varying levels of dead: physical, mental, the soul. The mental and the soul are the hardest. Day to day, seasons of emotions, storms of rage, floods of sadness, the mass of the happy, the perch of comfort, once available, lost, then found again.
It's the freedom, not
Stupid. Dollars lie. Dollars buy. The new and improved, limited time only. Mind control. The needs and wants for a brave new future world. A world of plastic. Plastic. Plastic and the plastic lad. Get out of the radical world. Operators are waiting to take your order. Please allow 6-8 weeks for delivery in the continental U.S. Have you saved for your retirement? Your children's education? Did you visit and take care of your aging parents today? Sync up your Google calendar. What are the playlists? Are my hours being cut? When was the last time you called the exterminators to check for bedbugs? The light wasn't red when you entered the intersection. No matter. You still get the ticket. Your deductions from pensioners and taxes are not available to be deducted on your taxes this year. Your child doesn't listen. Your child doesn't suspect. And they haven't completed their homework. Responsibilities that need to be drilled in further. The forest that is their right has been contaminated and clear-cut. I don't know the roads I was on until a fucking cop shot my car. Oh dear, today is the day that I lose my job. So much knowledge, so much talent. We'll cut and kill the cat to just get internet. You spend your life fighting mind control. The state, the government, entities, all that just extra rights from the state. The solar class to keep the enslavement contract on by all parties. The candy coated survivors of sweet candy with a wanting campaign set to bite to get to the center of the holy carrying cups of redemption and wrongful dignity. The indoctrinated gold standard for state worship and obedience.
Monsters, the mind and body, the cold sweat, the mirror, the critic, points of those moments of self-doubt, personal self-harm weaponry. Beauty is in the eyes of others, slicing us, the many pieces of carnage we become. They're never satisfied. You're never satisfied. The media is the standard. Who are you to question its norms, adhere and obey? We all work together, just yield and follow. Beauty is our savior and our killer. There is beauty in carnage. It's bliss, full circle and orbit. It's appreciation. It's unity, the slicing and dicing, the worms of disease and infection. The colon, the purge. The ego and the self are angels, and the demons are who we are. We're friends. Our demons play well together. The angels ruin the fun. For all the time we love, hate is in our underbelly. It rots, kills us slowly, and kills quickly. Stigma makes us lightning rods. If you're stigma, you see truth, ugliness, cruelty, neglect, and the death of empathy. The birth of hypocrisy and the slicing and dicing of the senses. To the short-sighted, you rule the day. To the deep thinkers, you tried. To us all, the wounded, the plastic happy, the toxic raged, and the obliterated sad. Take comfort that the monsters of your mind and body are fine. Your task has just begun. Cheap lives. How cheap is a life? Where's the price list? Where do you fall on there? Are you at the bottom of the clearance rack? Or are you a valet parking life existence? We are all pro-life, just the lives that matter to us personally. Lives that serve our needs. Lives that don't obstruct our progress and disrupt our day-to-day. Question our understanding, question our privilege. Those that scream against injustice at great cost to themselves. It's the lives that aren't convenient, the ones that we deem disruptive to our bank accounts, disruptive to our morning commutes, the ones who rise against what harms the average person, legislated against, imprisoned, shot, sprayed with water cannons, photographed dead on a county jail floor for a mugshot, dead after an illness that would have been treated that the insurance company denied for coverage. The lives of cowards and backstabbers who dare not question the status quo, to see the harm they do. Life is good in valet parking. All it asks for is its loyalty, and it pays you at the expense of many. The lives of those who can't afford valet parking, that support and wish they could afford it and strive for it. The harm they do. The ones that keep their eyes on the prize while trampling on everyone else. Finding safety as a backstabbing, useful idiot to complete their life mission. A mission that is a failure in the bigger picture. Lives that are demonized for how they look and who they love. Those who openly challenge the status quo. You have no car to park. You take up space by existing. That is your role. One that is vilified, but one that brings change. A change that evolves to a new way of thinking, living, and rediscovering. A solid walk to see the sights is far better than driving to the valet parking lot. Disruption is far more honorable than compliance and complacency. It shows true love, a true love of self-sacrifice, and one that changes the course of history in the immediate and in the bigger picture. Angry negotiations. Angry negotiations where voices aren't raging loudly. Diplomacy. The dance of posturing. Deciding who leads. Who is to follow. Next. Whipping up national fervor. Chest beating. Preparing our youthful sacrifices to the capitalist oligarch deities. Who says human sacrifices died? It never died. It's alive and well, and its shares have gone up in value. When is it time for the artists and free thinkers to start considering going underground? When do we start writing the words of patriotism that we don't mean to survive our brainwashed brethren? How many fake prayers will we have to make to survive this? How many Howard W. Campbells do we have sprouting underneath the flags of Old Glory to reclaim the robber baron paradise America once was? From dying to thriving, the fight for their place at the head of the national and world table. A time for old school whites who think the best days are behind us until now, when they believe they have the power to take it back. Feed us our propaganda, and we will eat it up faithfully for our own benefit. Keep us poor and unstable. It's how society stays strong. So fear not, faithful citizen. Your shortened lifespan will inspire others to work harder and invest so they don't die a loser like you. You dare to question. You spit at your corporate masters. You tear up your bills that don't affect your everyday life. Playing with the bill collectors is a cheap thrill. Your score goes down. Owning lots of things has long since lost its appeal to you. A good old used bike is more enjoyable than a car anyway. But capitalism will always forgive you if and only if you have money. Keep with nice thoughts and prayers to Jesus and things will work out fine. Even if you're a highly ranked asshole. Be as fake to the bootlickers if that's what it takes to get the upper hand on them. They are not going to go down until they are screwed over enough for it to threaten their existence.
300 and the bloodlines of 13. The many arms of the global hydra. The open nations of the world. The crops of productive humanity. The slaughterhouses to keep the population down. Divide, create competition, create wars. Give them liberty. Give them liberty to think about themselves. Tell them to spend. Tell them to stop helping their fellow human. We all wear the skins of the 300 and the bloodlines of 13. The average person knows not how trapped they are. They think their lives matter, and that they have choice and freedom. It's not a choice when the global ruling elite are the ones that gave us for choices. The music, the clothes, the culture, the vanity of our personal artistic endeavors to make us feel good, keep us asleep, keep us fighting each other, the mind control of commerce, the mind control of theology, the mind control of technology, and the wars within the Lilliputian states. All of the good drugs to give us as a merciful existence from feeling ruled. What's the latest drug craze? The new jobs it creates, the lives saved, the lives lost. Almost none know of 300 and the bloodlines of 13. The pawns of freedom, the pawns of patriotism, the pawns of freedom and revolution. When did the nation of freedom die? How long was it really free? Was it ever free? How many of its leaders were fired from their subordinate posts by assassination? How many are fooled by the rebellion being proposed by the new boss? The script has changed and the Hydra changes form again. We are all covered by labels, and we were given mirrors to stare at them. We were told to flaunt them and pursue them with glee. Fight those who oppose your labels. With labels, we lose our connections to each other and our humanity. Keep voting for our supervisors, the low-end ones that will never serve us in any meaningful way. It's always the 300 and the bloodlines of 13. The true government of the world. The one that only grows more powerful. The one that rules while we sleep in our daily existence.
Blue butterflies. In the forest of the screaming giant trees, a little girl wandered lost. She was far from her village, and she was missing for months. She was discovered missing 5 days after her disappearance. The screams from the trees never allowed her to sleep. Their branches ripped part of her clothing and gave her cuts on her legs. She was weary and dying of hunger and thirst. She fainted and fell into unconsciousness as the screams of the trees became shriller. But none of them could stir the little girl from unconsciousness. The woods became silent. Upon awakening, the little girl found herself in a meadow with radiating sunlight. The grasses were up to her waist, and the flowers ascended to the loving sky. As she looked around, a dark cloud appeared upon the horizon. Swarms of blue butterflies descended upon her. The little girl wasn't afraid. The wing dust of the butterflies brought her euphoria and deep happiness. Many perched on her while others spun around like a funnel cloud. The little girl began to ascend in the air above the towering dark forest of screaming trees. Their screams became soothing lullabies as the wood glistened with sunlight. She could see for thousands of miles, and she could see the village where she lived. The butterflies swept her into further flight and flew her to the village. No one saw her. She looked towards the cemetery and saw her family and friends looking down at her grave. The girl felt no pain nor had any memory of them. She just saw them with sadness in their hearts. She opened up her arms, and deep blue butterflies swarmed out of her arms and landed on all of those at the funeral. The tears became smiles as they began to find the beauty the little girl once had given them. Her work at the village was done, and she flew with her butterfly minions into a clearing in the dark woods of the screaming, towering trees. The little girl's light created a clearing where she stood. She then began to feel the sadness and the pain of those she had lost. The butterflies went up around her into a blinding funnel cloud that spun around for hours. Just as quickly as they appeared, the butterflies vanished. All that remained was the little girl in a giant, clear, radiant, towering crystal. Upon closer inspection, her black hair had become white, her blue dress frost in color, and her well-toned skin had become pale white. The only clue to her sadness was a tear frozen to her cheek. The angel in white, her long white loose hair, and her swept lace gown that ascended the air while it touched the ground. Her waist-length frosty white hair rode the steady, frosty breeze. She stood in the field as a mist. Everyone from the remote village knew to stay out of the field. One could see and hear her with the other misty women and girls frolicking and laughing eerily as the white misty grass and flowers flapped in the icy white breeze. None of the villagers' women were there by accident. They had been taken from their homes since 1763. The angel in white would enter a girl's dreams and take her. The angel in white would gaze upon a girl's mirrored reflection and take her. The angel in white would enter a girl's cell phone, laptop, TV, and computer screen and take her. Once a girl was taken, those who loved and knew her would have no memory of her. The angel in white had piercing, large, oval, coal-black eyes. Once a girl was chosen by the angel in white, she was left two choices. First would be to join her and the other girls in the field, or to be found by those who loved them dead in their bed. Very few girls chose to be found dead. The angel in white's field was a sanctuary. Girls could be themselves and safe from harm. Some girls came from loving homes. Others were rescued from personal hells. Every girl's bliss was the angel in white's agony. The angel in white was the rod for which all the girls' anguish would strike. The angel in white did all of what she had done because she needed to find a worthy successor. Since 1763, there were none to be found. For every stabbing that the angel in white would receive, the more she would have to face her own demise. She faced the burden of taking all of those souls and memories of those girls and women, as well as the memories of their family members. Upon taking her last girl, the angel in white fell ill. The girl's pure, tortured soul had pierced a hole in her heart. The long, flowing white gown had become a thick green stem. The waist-length hair turned into orchid petals. The coal-black oval eyes became the inner face of the orchid. The ground where the angel in white stood became a neatly manicured field of lush green grass. The same transformation had happened to all of the girls and women that were in the angel of white's field, yet they did not lose their bliss despite getting their memories back. The field glowed in its warmth in contrast to the blustery, frigid snow and cold of the year. All of the girls' families and friends had gotten their memories back and visited the orchid garden and became spiritually connected. For For the villagers who had to stay away from the field, it was now safe for them to visit. From that day forth, once a year, during the coldest and snowiest day and night, the villagers would be able to join the girls and friends and families in the Angel of White's orchid garden. Jar of sunshine. Everyone has a jar of sunshine inside them. It is loved and it is hated. It is cherished and it is taken for granted. Bleak was the day when our jars of sunshine were taken away. Few remember those days. The ones who lived through it have passed on for the most part. Some younger folks remember thanks to the diligence of their elders. But few understood the bleakness and fear those days held. Years went by and the scars of those days faded, until there was only one survivor, the oldest woman alive, and who was the little girl who saved everybody's jar of sunshine. Her name was Maggie, and she came from a modest farming village and was one of 100 children in a home that had a missing father. The cottage was snug, warm, and loving. The rest of the village was the same way. All were poor, but their jars of sunshine were as bright as a radiating beacon of blinding bliss. There was always hope despite the shortfalls. The villagers' skin glowed brightly in contrast to the azure sky. The bleakness and fear entered from the little boy like a thief in the night. His eyes were watery, and a gray blank expression had extinguished his glow. Oh, how he stood out in the lights of bliss. The entire village stood still for that moment in a haze of bewilderment. A doctor had looked at him and concluded that his jar of sunshine had been stolen. The entire village was in shock. No one had willfully hurt one another, let alone committed such a heinous act. Reaction was mixed in the village. Those who took their jar of sunshine for granted didn't believe that it would happen again and did nothing to protect theirs. Those who loved and cherished theirs hid them well, and those who hated theirs left them out to be taken. However, no one's jars were safe. Night after night, more and more jars of sunshine vanished, and the glows of the townspeople began to fade. The ones who took their jar of sunshine for granted and or hated theirs wept openly for what they had lost. Those who protected their jars of sunshine wept and prayed for the return of theirs. They could not help themselves, let alone help their fellow man save theirs. In Maggie's house, one by one, each of her siblings turned blank and gray. She was the smallest and hid well. She needed to. People began to fight and hurt each other over the remaining jars of sunshine. When each jar was stolen, the home would be ripped apart, glass would be shattered, and the feet of the villagers would bleed a dark red. There were claw marks on people's skin. And as the days went on, things had gotten worse. Maggie was the only one in town who had her jar of sunshine. The entire village was out to take her jar of sunshine away from her. So she ran fast and ran far as way she could into the dark forest. The forest had never seen daylight before and was frosty and bitter cold. Her jar of sunshine lit the way and kept her warm. She struggled through the brush and found a path which led to a gaping cave opening. From the outside, she could see the radiating light within. She knew that light and warmth and she wondered if her family was there as well as the rest of the villagers. She could not recognize anyone anymore at home or in the village. They appeared too cold and dark to be who they once were. Maggie crept silently inside and saw a mountain-high pile of everyone's jar of sunshine. It was blinding. It blinded her so much that it caused her to stumble and make enough sounds to alert the beast of her presence. The fearsome beast, part man, part goat, part vulture, and part owl, with blood-red eyes, swept down to where Maggie was, rolled up in a ball, crying at the beast's frightful appearance. The beast knew no happiness despite all of the jars of sunshine he had stolen, but seeing Maggie so frightened of him awoke something in him that had been dormant for many years. The beast did not have the heart to harm her or take her jar of sunshine, so he reached out to soothe her. Though Maggie was initially frightened by him, she came to trust him and was grateful for his act of kindness. The beast himself wept after telling Maggie how he lost his jar of sunshine and that he wasn't always a monster, but he had no recollection of his life before becoming one, only remembering that he had a jar of sunshine that was lost. He only took the jars of sunshine to alleviate the emptiness of his loss. Maggie offered to help him find his jar of sunshine. He looked far wide and saw a glow coming out of a dried well after days of searching. The beast lowered Maggie to retrieve it. There was not even a scratch. The beast and Maggie then gathered and returned everybody's jar of sunshine. Upon returning the last jar of sunshine to Maggie's mother, the beast began to morph and become human. Maggie leapt into his arms and hugged him tightly. The village was bliss and radiant again. Maggie had gotten her jar of sunshine back, and she also had found her long-lost father. Shattered Onyx. It was hundreds of years ago from today when the last bit of blood was shed in this remote kingdom. The 3-story onyx crystal had long since been shattered. The remnants were taken piece by piece as talismans to ward off evil and bad luck. As beliefs changed, many threw them away in the name of a new evolving dogma. But there were some that vowed never to forget and hid them. The new faith considered the onyx shards to be evil, and the punishment for ownership was death. There were trials and hunts for those who owned them. Some rightly accused, most were innocent of the accusations, and some were wrongly accused, convicted, and paid with their lives. The few remaining that owned their shards either lived deep in the forests within the towering trees and the blinding thick underbrush, or lived with the secret within the village. Those who lived in the forest had small cottages, and some lived underground. To keep the faith, one king ordered an expedition into the forest and came up empty-handed. Another king tried burning down the forests, and not a single tree, let alone a twig, would ignite. From that time forth, kings ignored the forest, believing that the faith in the crystal had died. The belief in the towering crystal onyx never actually died, and after many years after being considered heresy, the belief arose from obscurity. Much blood had been shed hundreds of years ago, and the kingdom was still bitterly divided between those who believed in the onyx and those who considered it evil. Each group committed an equal level of atrocities towards each other. Parents were losing children younger and younger. Then one night during a full moon appeared another 3-story crystal onyx. Something had happened that night that was profound and enlightening. All of the kingdom for that short period had stopped fighting and peace had ensued. The kingdom for that time had been restored. Unfortunately, it was short-lived. The competing factions claimed it as their own redemptions and began to kill each other again. The people failed to notice the onyx was cracking and breaking away until it was finally all in pieces. Some stood in disbelief after it happened. Others wept openly. Others blamed each other and began to fight again. But it was the remaining children who risked their lives by ignoring the beliefs of their elders and began to gather the broken shards. The village elders saw this and began to feel shame in their actions and were inspired by the bravery of their children and followed the children's lead. One by one, each villager put down their stones and picked up the shattered shards. The villagers placed every shard in the hole where the onyx once stood. All were silent at that moment. Hearts were overwhelmed with sadness. The blaming had ended, but the cost of the blame was a very steep price to pay for such a monumental loss. The villagers began to count the days they had stopped fighting and killing each other. They gathered around the shattered onyx where they had erected a shrine to it. There was good reason for hope. For each day they lived in peace, the onyx would slowly repair itself. The onyx presently is only 1/4 of the way repaired. Generations upon generations knew the onyx would not be whole in their lifetimes, but the reward would be theirs in another lifetime. But still, it is hope that keeps the onyx growing for that day to come. There once was a man who had nothing but bad luck, and a woman with no kindness. The man with nothing but bad luck was disrespected, misunderstood, and ostracized by everyone. But out of all of the people that hurt him, there was one who stood out the most: his wife, the woman with no kindness. She was most unkind to him in many ways. There were never any kind words, only demands and scathing criticisms. She was seldom faithful and was inattentive to his feelings at best. All the man knew how to do was to be kind, which only caused the woman with no kindness to treat him worse and become more distant. He was not alone in being mistreated. There were plenty of others who incurred her wrath. She was widely despised and was treated as such in return. All this would continue until she found herself alone after outliving everybody around her, including the man who had nothing but bad luck that adored her. She passed away alone and with no one around to know that she had died. She reached the gates of heaven and found herself in the presence of God. It was only then that she began to understand the pain she had inflicted upon others, and those who had loved her most, including the man who had nothing but bad luck, whose kindness and faith never wavered. She was fearful, remorseful, and was trembling. God simply said to her, "I know all that you have done, and I forgive you. I forgive everybody, but your fate is in the hands of those whom you have wronged. For you to pass through these gates, you must get forgiveness from all of them, since you weren't able to make amends with at least one of them while you were alive." She became even more frightened. This new understanding was terrifying. God then summoned all of those who incurred her wrath. One by one, they spoke of the pain the woman with no kindness had inflicted upon them, each one speaking how she didn't deserve how to pass through the gates, until lastly, the man who had nothing but bad luck, whom she hurt the most, spoke. "I never imagined I would see the day where you truly understood how much pain and humiliation that you had given me all those years. I never thought I would have the opportunity to be able to forgive you and have you appreciate it, and that is all I ever hoped for. Despite all you have done, I believe you should be able to pass through these gates. As for the rest of you who have said that she shouldn't pass through the gates, I ask you to reconsider your choice. We all have had to face this day ourselves and understand what it means to be in her position. We are only as good as how we treat the person who has hurt us most. Many of you who sit in judgment of her have been most unkind to me for showing her sympathy in life and now with her passing. But yet, I still said that you deserve to pass through the gates yourselves. Again, I ask that you change your minds and let her pass." There was silence, and then one by one, each person stated that she should be able to pass through the gates, until all said that she should be able to pass through the gates. God then spoke to the woman with no kindness. "Though you have made many enemies in your life, you still made one friend that never lost faith in you and spoke up for you in a time of great need. He convinced others who thought less of you that you are worthy of what is behind those gates, and that was no easy task. You may now pass. The man with nothing but bad luck and the woman with no kindness were able to finally find peace with each other and those around them." Dances with self-sabotage. Our intentions, our actual intentions and actions that seem to get in the way of moving forward. The promise you broke, the good thing that you let pass by, the void that was felt afterwards, lesson learned only to be forgotten again, and finding a new learned means of self-sabotage to repeat the cycle again. Finding answers to questions, never to follow through with the lessons, at least for now. Kick it further down the road and pick it up again. The comforts we use to tackle this. No plate of food too large, no line of coke too big or too often. No amount of weed to numb and reach the stars. Down the road. Down the road. Sometimes digestion of discoveries is overwhelming and it takes time to metabolize them. Finish what is on your plate if a lot has been put on it. Not all of it is sweet to the taste. Lots of bitter herbs. Unappealing presentation. It's a dish you can't feed to the dog or throw out. It's yours. You own it. You can't leave the table. No, really, you can't leave the table. It is on your plate. you really don't have much of a say of what is put on the plate. It's best to be mindful of the choices that you have control over. The stuff you have control over takes up a large part of that plate. Be bold and do not fear finishing what is there, and reject what wasn't your fault. You may get sick from it, you may die from it. If you survive it, you will come out stronger and ready for more. It could also be the end of you. That time comes when you least expect it. At times, at least it is obvious. If you are aware, you will see it and be ready for those moments. Conflict of the minds. No minds are useless. No thoughts, large or small, all have their place on the endless spectrum table. The knowledge is there. Minds are wildernesses, wildernesses where we reside. The small warm cabins, the minimalistic tract of land planted deep within that vast wilderness. The fear of the unknown, the fear of what hurts us, our fortifications, our walls, our fences. The safest answers are sought out first. Survival, safety, and grounding. How long before you have to go exploring to find it again? It is fleeting, subject to change, no warnings, sometimes. So you think. The changes are subtle. The changes are obvious, unfair, unjust, bold, and righteous. You're never too young or too old to explore it. For the few that do it knowingly, life, the universe, and everything are a new beginning daily. We sometimes forget our safety in the name of exploration and knowledge. Some of us have cabin fever. The walls and the boundaries, crushing, stifling, conformist. The kindling of passion to tear down those walls and explore the mind wilderness. Those who fear change do not explore their minds. Comfort is addicting and needed even when exploring the mind. Stable ground, the fear of loss, the appreciation of the simple. Sometimes simple is so deep, so obvious, so complicated, necessary and oppressive. Simple is a reminder of why we are here. Few see this, some don't see it, others see and forget, some just don't care. So we think, so they think. Fear smothers empathy. That these sense of security from an oversimplified solution, the daunting complexities that create mazes away from the simple and the safe. No answer can be that easy. So we think. Fallen bourgeoisie Americana. More fun than being dirty. Earthy. Lifeline. Flowers that bloom. Food that feeds the masses. Families that bond over meals. Before calling, check the book. Contemplation. inner conflict, time to confess, a cold shoulder reception, bed for two, now solo. Fascinating people, yearning, devious thoughts, online night encounters, Sunday morning chilling conversations, the settling for fleeting monogamy, 5 times the wear, shattered, torn deeply, emotions have faded, my decision is final, you will be alone now. Refreshing feeling, tranquility, new beginnings, love is found, new daylight and warmth, the growth of time now. Mental magic, indulgence, impulse choices, a downward spiral, demons of the past, pain that lasts a lifetime. Dent resistant, scuff resistant, survivor, coping skills, gratitude is gained, the lessons are learned, wisdom and foresight are guides. You need a good basic breakfast, simplicity, reclaim bliss, the morning paper, a cup of coffee, another day at the office. Fallen Bourgeoisie Americana, Take 2. A vacation away from your coffee. Ungrateful, never satisfied. Passive-aggressive tendencies. Silly, fragile male ego. Little man of great failure. This flat tire needs a man. Helpless. Limited options. Moments of vulnerability. You're worth every penny. Safety is on a leash. Women who rate a 10. Shallow. Plastic existence. Unrealistic beauty standards. Cage for public preservation. Placed on a pedestal for oppression. All of the woods, your voice must be deeper. Unworthy, not manly. The toxic masculinity. Sensitivity is the weakness. Brute strength is the rule. They work so hard. Let's go for a smoke so we can't see it. Deniability. Willfully lazy. Clean up after yourself. You're a disappointment. Your presence is not needed. 7 guns and 1 for your son. Murder. The shooting. The crime scene. The ignored warning signs. Blame it on YouTube videos. I push the button and make the best copies my boss wants. Demanding. Woefully overqualified. Hired for less. The outdated skill set. Long-term unemployment. The norm. Come to where the flavor is. Escape. Short box. Tasty death choices. Smooth inhaled lung daggers. The smothered life force scarred. The Disconnect, Part 3 and 4. The Digital Shield and Vintage Fascination. The Digital Shield and the Cloak of Data Connection. Thief of the Human Spark. Douses, numbs. It teleports them to the next dimension. You are never lonely with the web of gods and goddesses. The dimension is AI joy, all dangers and all knowledge. Flesh is weak, slow, outmoded. Strong is the technology. Loving it is in a digital way. The new faithful overpaid friend. The friend that kills analog methodology and memories. We are lost when it dies if we didn't share it with more AI. The loss is only found out when it is gone. Newly vintage chrome of the 21st century. Newly purchased and recently manufactured vintage chrome of the 21st century. The longing for the past, old as the brand new, missing, incomplete. Music tastes with gaping holes, oddities, old favorites. Clothes our grandparents once wore, mothballs, funky shoes, the new 60s, the new 70s, the new 80s, the new 90s, and the obscenely stated, authentic, historical, music and style extraordinaire geek of true vintage dismayed by the commodification of the tastes of the generations past. The drugs of old, weed and acid. The drugs of new, ketamine and a roulette of synthetics. Floating in the park to the sounds of Billie Holiday over cheaply priced wine and Trader Joe's cheese. Parked and resting on its side, a shiny, newly constructed, shiny vintage bicycle that lacks its predecessor's workmanship and craft knowledge.
Gods, Guns, and Football. Huntsville, Alabama. War Factory Powers. The Planet X Diorama. Space Blasts and Monsters of War. The main drag of strip malls, bunk stores, titty bars. Fast food bars and grills. Immune to the radiating tensions, heat, cultural baggage, and the old festering wounds born again anew. Friendly faces, the masks, the invisible undertone of for residents only, outsiders stay outside. The cloud miners and starving fodder of riffraff, unity in God, guns, and football. The fabric loom, the arresting, subdued fabric of complicity and yearning freedom, God, guns, and football. Unity, ties that bind the generations. Hang to you those who deviate from the order. Complacency is truth. Questions are heresy. There is no nation but Alabama. We're dumb, but we're not as dumb as Mississippi. God, guns, and football. God on Sunday. Guns and football on Saturday. All said with pride to the nation of Alabama. The God, the guns, and football, center of the universe. We need God, guns, and football. Ward off tornadoes. Jesus bless storm shelters. Diamondback snakes and visiting foreigners. Yankee and immigrant alike. Love God, welcome. Love guns, welcome. Love football? Welcome. If not, leave. Come back again when you love God, guns, and football.
Ode to Nazis marching through a pride parade. Detroit Pride 2019. Here's to you, Nazis old and young, the seeds you've sown, and the future where you will be hung. We are wise to your evil and have grown. We are wise to your history. We value being diverse and free. Your end game is afar from a mystery. Life is far better fully liberated than you will fully understand to see. Your existence is lies and hate. The fearful cowards and their false deity. The population you wish to sedate. One of true moral cowardice and a lack of piety. The changes are all around you. That is what you fear most. When was there a time you didn't blame gays or other minorities or a Jew? You never were number one, and you cannot boast. You wish to take over our growing, beautiful, diverse society. Your plans lead to disorder and death. Your plans are moot and aren't worthy of any notoriety. You worship the murderer of millions who loved his meth. Those of you in blue, the voices of reason, your actions that day show to whom you were really true, the betrayer of humanity with your act of treason. Despite your efforts, we still find love and celebrate. Go back to the holes from which you emerged and hide. Our happiness, our communities, and our freedom you will never negate. We are out, we are loud, you can go to hell while we continue to celebrate pride. A.m. moments. The moments of exhaustion at 3 a.m. The moments where peace is found. A great way to finally find sleep. Elation in the norms of tomorrow. How much is forgotten? Will it be found when the storms from within rise like a full moon tide? Has the high ground been found? It's the deep breaths and the new focus that are the preparation. A preparation for rough travels. Old regrets gone. Now, on the road, on a quest for new regrets. Freedom is a great friend. It's a tricky friend. One that could get the better of people. The joys create moments where mindfulness can slumber. Future regrets aren't seen at times, but the moments are enjoyed and relished regardless of the pains afterwards. With finding the peace from within, the past is looked upon again, like a climber reaching the highest summit, looking off into the distance in all directions, and looking down at what had to be done to get there. That is the ultimate moment of reflection. A moment to savor a victory after a long, hard, well-fought battle. Moments of revelry that is truly earned. the notifying of allies and loves alike. Spread the good news of the new beginning. How much of this beginning has the stains of the old path? Has there really been change? How many times is it just repackaged insanity with different labels and fancy wrapping paper? With luck, this time, it is different. If it is found and understanding has been reached, a new beginning has truly been created. That is what is known as the end of a stage and a true new beginning. The old habits are now the ghosts that rattle the chains of the night. They interrupt rest, assault even the deepest sleep, and haunt the best of dreams. They could be kidnappers that snatch people and take them back to that shattered place, the welcome parting that it is. One that knows all about a person, especially their weaknesses. The sadistic, abusive parent to a child who has failed after leaving a nest and is coming home with their head held down in shame and guilt. It reminds them how they fell and that they never had the change, and that each change brought them back to the beginning, to a place where they continue to disappoint and fail. Even when the sadistic parent is gone, its ghost remains. It's the life force of the subconscious, the part that can destroy or inspire growth. It will never leave a person alone. When it is silent, it can be found lurking in the shadows. It is the empty moments when someone is staring blankly into the world. It's the wet jacket which fails and makes the body shiver with uncertainty. It's holidays alone in an emotional cemetery with the photos of days gone by and knowing that no matter how far you travel, it comes back to the time and place you tried to escape from. The reminder of things that were wished to be forgotten. The strength it takes to see the silver linings. The strength it takes to forgive, but not forget without falling short and having it backfire. The feeling of barbed wire that digs in with each step walking forward. The hopes and dreams that it will not be passed on to the next generation. Facing that reality and finding in ways of what was done wasn't repeated, but also have found some things that were never imagined. And those chains of shame are a heavy yoke upon a neck. Reaching out and hoping they don't fall short. But falling short is inevitable. The saving grace is a person having the talent to have it not destroy them and break that cycle. It is divine if one can rise from all that and show others a way out of the storm. They can take that pain and turn it to redemption. Oh, to the last stand. The lives of the past, the monsters of now. Many say the end has been cast. It's all obvious in front of our brow. The many turmoils of our lives, the dark forces are not unexpected. Who really knows who survives when we live in a time where love is rejected? love. We need people to take chances. Let it flow from within and above as the time for the great meaning advances. Not one of death, not one of sorrow, a day of joy from every breath. For those who are short, there is plenty to borrow. A state of mind, one of bliss and contentment, the open gate that one can find. All are free, the soul's abatement. The human family, old and young, still waiting for war to arrive. Some are innocent and some are stung. It will be such a great moment to be alive. Walk on home, head held high, be joyful, it's your chance. Make it count and love will rain from the sky. All of us together can bring balance. The burden of the night. The gate has opened. It always was. Sometimes it's so obvious. It's so easy to get lost. The maps that we were given, the ones that were incomplete, the ones with holes, the ones that were partially burned, and the ones we asked for, the ones we were denied. Many of us never traveled in the wood during the day. It was more enchanting at night. The biggest thrills were the darkest of nights. The rewards were great. The falls were hard. Some of us bonded. Some of us warred with each other. The fallout and the peace that was made. The battle scars and the sharing that grieving brings. The forest during the day is a strange place. The warmth and the welcoming are most unfamiliar. Armor is so heavy at night under the night sky. The burden of the armor is not needed during the day. There are no wars. There is just understanding. For many, they are shrouded in white. Others are in an awakened state of bliss. All the armor is scrapped. It's left for those who are new to the dark nights of the forest. The bonds of bliss and happiness are made. The chains that were carried have been removed. It's the curiosity of the light that draws them to the gate. The one that was always open and with a clear path to go through is for everybody. It's found when it's their time. That time will reveal itself. It takes knowledge and understanding to find it. It takes a forgiving heart to find that path. The curse of the armor and chains, the roaming in the darkest of nights. The weight becomes lighter as you walk the lit path. When you reach the end of the path, you are welcomed. They were always watching out for you. They yelled into the darkness where you were. Their voices could not be heard at the time. The maps just got lost in those dark nights. It's the moments of the deepest truths and fears is when the lit path is revealed. The mind is receptive. The distraction is gone. It's the ultimate humble moment when it is seen for the first time. Once this is seen, the fear is lifted. The gate awaits.